For those who say that Penn State is always good at football, but they can't win the big game, I ask you, was Penn State's win at USC considered a big win? Maybe not. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked on Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked on Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, we're going to talk about Penn State and big wins and what that means moving forward. Plus, Dan Lanning is a smart guy. We'll talk about that and give a shout out to our players of the week and our power rankings as we see them in the Big Ten. Stay tuned for that. See where your team comes in this week. But Penn State under head coach James Franklin has been a really, really good football program. The knock on the program is they can't win the big game, right? My question to Penn State fans right now, and Big Ten fans as well, was Saturday's win at USC considered a big win? We'll explore that. Year after year, Penn State wins 10 games, and they seem to just always lose to Michigan and Ohio State, the big games on the schedule. Then they go to a decent bowl game, and they call it a season, and they'll try and do better next year. Good news is this year, the Big Ten, of course, has done away with all the divisions, and they only have to play Ohio State at home this year. They don't have to play Michigan this year, although I think they would want to play Michigan this year. Of all the years to not play Michigan, this might be the year to do it with all their turmoil and trying to find out who their starting quarterback is going to be. In fact, Penn State, I think, has been the best of the rest for a long time. They clearly would have benefited more than any other team in the country had we had a 12-team playoff all these years, the last 10 years, instead of a 4-team playoff. But right now, this team is basking in the glory of its big come-from-behind overtime win on the road at USC last weekend. And everybody is noticing. They're excited in Happy Valley. The Nittany Lions moved up from number 4 to number 3 in the AP Top 25 poll this week. That's pretty good. No matter what year it is, you're up to number 3, you're beating some teams, or you have the capability of beating some teams, Michigan or Ohio State notwithstanding. That's awesome. So things seem to be going great there. Now, I just have one question. Was that win at USC this past weekend a big win? It was a thrilling game. It was on national television. It was a game between two classic blue bloods of college football with tremendous history, but was it a big win? Why do I keep asking that? Well, USC wasn't even ranked when they played them. They're not even in the top 25. Let's think about that for a minute. Now, they were ranked in the top 25 a few weeks ago. In fact, poll voters thought Lincoln Riley's team was the 11th best in the country, largely based on the strength of their win against LSU, which is still ranked. That's a pretty good win, we thought. And I still think personally. But then they lost to Minnesota, and then they fell out of the top 25 altogether just from one game. USC is 3-3, and there's the old saying from Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. They're 3-3. They are a 500 football team, and they seem to struggle in late game situations. And I don't know why that is, but Penn State clearly took advantage of that on Saturday. I'd like to hear from Penn State fans in the comment section here on YouTube, because many of you who love Penn State, you write me all the time, and you're very critical of James Franklin. You often say, yeah, but he can't win the big game. I hear it all the time. So I'm going to ask you, was Saturday's win, was it a big game? A big game, because I considered winning a big game at USC. I felt like it was. It felt like a big game to me just watching it. Had the big time atmosphere. USC has a lot of future NFL talent. It's never easy no matter who you play. You have to travel across half the country and play on the road like that. It was a great comeback effort coming from behind too, on the road to win. That's never easy. overall, I think you have to consider Saturday a big win. Now, whether our comment section discerns that I'm right or I'm wrong, and I'll hear from all of you, we can all agree that after this bye week and the road game at Wisconsin, the biggest of the big games is coming in 2 weeks. That's when Ohio State comes to Happy Valley. Penn State's going to be zeroed in on all that. Win that game, and all the talk about the ability to win the big game goes away. Plus, it'll really put a cramp in the Buckeyes season. There'll be a second loss for them already. Lose that game, and all that James Franklin chatter continues, right? We're going to be all over that game here on Lockdown Big Ten. My first thumbnail overview thought of that game is that I think Ohio State has a little bit more firepower on offense. And I think that, the Buckeyes need to figure out how to solve tight end Tyler Warren for Penn State. I do that. And going into that game, that's going to be huge. That kid is amazing. By the way, stay tuned for Players of the Week. He might be mentioned in that. Based on what I've seen the past couple of weeks, the Nittany Lions defense might have the slight edge on the Buckeyes. So I'll give a bit of an edge with all the talent Ohio State has on offense. If you want to compare offense versus offense, I would give the Nittany Lions the slight edge on defense too. And I know Ohio State is very proud of its defense. It's a good defense. It's a great defense. But in yesterday's podcast here on Lockdown Big Ten, in fact, you can go back and check it out on YouTube or Talk Big Ten, our website. I talked about how Oregon exposed a few areas that Ohio State's going to have to shore up on its defense. So in that matchup in a couple of weeks, I actually think Penn State goes into that game with a slightly better defense. I would not have told you that a couple weeks into the season, the Bowling Green game, or giving up hundreds of yards to various receivers. I thought maybe they were in for some trouble, maybe for a long season. But about that point, things started to click with defensive coordinator Tom Allen and that defensive unit. I think they've done a wonderful job. The fun thing about watching Penn State's defense is the later the game gets, the tighter that defense gets, the harder it is to get any yardage on them. I love that aspect about their defense. So they got it rolling right now. So slight edge to Ohio State on offense, slight edge to Penn State on the defense. And then you add home field advantage. Beaver Stadium's going to be just rocking for that game. And it's going to be just an incredible game that maybe if Oregon and Ohio State was the game of the year, that might be the next biggest game of the year for sure. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll only have to wait a couple more weeks to check that out. In the meantime, I want to invite you, if you're new to this podcast, to subscribe. Just click the little subscribe button. It's free. It's always free. We never ask for any personal information. All it does is it gets you lined up every day on your devices to be ready to go for Lockdown Big Ten, because we are here every single day talking about all the teams in the Big Ten. So you can get in on that, subscribe. And then I also ask a personal favor, if you don't mind sharing with somebody that likes Big Ten. Maybe a family member who's an alum. Hey, this Lockdown Big Ten is out here every day. Go ahead and share it after you subscribe. That would be a personal favor to me. Thank you very much. And then you get this wherever you get your podcast. Get the latest episode of Lockdown Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And we also have a website, talkbig10.com. We put all of our podcasts there chronologically, and we group them by school. Today we're talking about Penn State. This will go under Penn State. While you're there, we also have a link to all of your favorite schools, teams, merchandise. You want to buy a new Penn State shirt or a Michigan hat or an Ohio State pennant, you can get it all right there at your fingertips with our podcast at talkbig10.com. All right, so Dan Lanning seems to be playing chess at Oregon while everybody else is playing checkers. And just a big move, tweaking the rule, or knowing the rules inside and out, helping him out on Saturday. I know he's very proud of that. We'll talk about that, plus our players of the week. We always like to give shout-outs to them throughout the Big Ten, and our power rankings. That's all coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Game time. This is where you get tickets to everything. You want to go to a Big Ten football game, Big Ten basketball game, NFL, baseball playoffs, or concerts, comedy shows in your own neighborhood. Get the Game Time app on your phone or your device and you'll be ready to go. It's so easy to use. Everything's upfront pricing. You get to see the view from the seat of the ticket you're about to buy to any event you can think of. It is all right there. Then there's the lowest price guarantee for Game Time. Game Time will credit you 110% the difference if you find a different price somewhere. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying concerts and game tickets at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, thank you everybody for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day, especially you everydayers out there. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And a reminder to check us out on our website, talkbig10.com. All right. Typically, committing a penalty late in a football game, especially if it's a close game, will not help you win that game. But in Saturday night's win over Ohio State, Oregon got called for 12 men on the field with 10 seconds to go. And the incident actually helped burn 4 seconds off the clock and helped Oregon win the game against Ohio State. According to Oregon coach Dan Lanning, the penalty was committed on purpose for that very reason. The Ducks had a 1-point lead. Ohio State had the ball 3rd and 25 from the Oregon 43-yard line. They were threatening to gain a little bit of yardage. One more play. Call a timeout. They had one left, kick a potential game-winning field goal, go home. Well, Oregon had called a timeout with 10 seconds to go. And then just before Ohio State snapped the ball, defensive back Manning stepped onto the field, giving the Ducks 12 men on the field. And the Buckeyes, I should say, were rewarded 5 yards for the penalty, but 4 seconds had expired. And that time was not added back to the clock because the penalty was a live ball foul. So the time's gone. That certainly may have led to Ohio State quarterback Will Howard's confusion when he scrambled on the next play and he delayed, then he scrambled, then he slid, and the clock's read 0. Timeout. Ohio State eats the timeout in their pocket. They don't get to kick a game-winning field goal. Oregon wins. Lanning said the Ducks spend a lot of time on those very situations and those loopholes in the rules during practice. And he said they got the chance to dust that one off at the end of the game Saturday. And that guy's playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. And now he's very happy with himself. Everybody's thinking of him as a super smart coach. He is. It was a big time move upstairs thinking about it. And cost Ohio State 4 precious seconds at the end of the game. Ohio State's probably going back, what just happened? This is unbelievable. Speaking of Oregon, we'll give a shout out to Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback, their senior quarterback. He led Oregon to that win. He was 23 of 34 passes for 341 yards and 2 touchdowns, and also added 32 rushing yards, including that 27-yard touchdown around the right side. That was amazing. So he is the co-offensive player of the week in the Big Ten. And this is his second 300-yard passing game this season, 25th of his career. Multiple touchdown passes in all 6 games as a Duck. Very, very impressive. Also, we can't be talking offensive player of the week in the Big Ten without mentioning Penn State tight end Tyler Warren. This guy is amazing. I often referred to him in the beginning of the season as offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki's secret weapon because he's thrown a touchdown. He's caught touchdowns. He's run for touchdowns. He does everything. But the secret's out. Everybody knows him now because he had 17 catches against USC for 224 yards in that 33-30 overtime win against Southern Cal. And he joins Northwestern's John Harvey, who had 208 yards against Michigan in 1982 as the only Big Ten tight ends to go over 200 receiving yards in a game, and his 17 receptions are tied with Harvey for 4th most in a game by a Big Ten player. Just remarkable. Had a 32-yard touchdown reception in that game, his 15th receiving touchdown as well. We also have co-defensive players of the week. Shout out to Aaron Graves at Iowa. The junior defensive lineman had 2 sacks and forced 2 fumbles in Iowa's 40-16 win over Washington. By the way, they gave Kirk Ferentz his 200th career victory. That's second all-time of the Big Ten. 5 more away from Woody Hayes. 5 more. That's incredible. He also finished with 5 tackles, 2 solo, and 3 assists, and had a pass breakup in that win. And it marked his second game of the season with 2 or more sacks. Also, co-defensive player of the week in the Big Ten, Coy Perch, Minnesota, defensive back, just a freshman. This isn't freshman of the week. This is co-defensive player of the week. He recorded a pair of tackles and his team-leading 3rd and 4th interceptions of the season in Minnesota's 21-17 win at UCLA. His first interception led directly to a Minnesota touchdown, gave the Gophers a 14-10 lead. His second interception came on the final play of the game to wrap that thing up on a UCLA Hail Mary attempt and preserve the win for the Gophers. And his 4 interceptions are the most ever by a Gophers freshman, and he still has half the season to go. Now, special teams player of the week in the Big Ten, Luke Akers, Northwestern. He's their kicker and their punter, served as the place kicker, the punter, and a kickoff specialist for the first time in his career in Northwestern's 37-10 win at Maryland. 3 for 3 on field goals, 4 for 4 on extra points, punted 5 times for a 49-yard average, and pinned the Terps to the 1-yard line on a 56-yard punt in the 3rd quarter, and recorded a 58-yard punt down at the Maryland 15 in the 4th quarter. So he really did a great job there doing all those tasks in one game for the first time. And finally, our freshman of the week in the Big Ten goes to Ryan Barker of Penn State. Remember, they were having some kicking problems earlier. Ryan Barker got his shot at it to start as the starting kicker 2 games ago and drilled 4 field goals, including a game-winning 36-yarder in overtime as Penn State got the overtime win against Southern Cal. He went 3 for 3 on extra points to improve to 8 for 8 on the season. So congratulations to him. Fantastic. Want to mention all those players. We do that each and every week. Our Big Ten players of the week. All right, coming up, you know what we do on Wednesdays. Okay, if you're new here, we do a feature in our 3rd segment every day. Mondays is my top 10 Big Ten observations. Tuesdays, Tuesday tweets. Wednesdays, we do power rankings. How the standings, how I see them, not how they actually are, but and I make a good case for it. Thursdays, we look ahead at the Big Ten schedule with Big Ten classics and live action. And Friday, we do pigskin picks. So we got our power rankings. We'll see where your favorite team comes in. A bit of a shakeup with the big games this week from what we've normally had. So all that is coming up in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel makes games more fun. They're fun enough watching them, being there. But if you got some action on it, that's awesome. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You get a big return with FanDuel in the NFL. You get a hunch in the middle of a game on a Sunday afternoon. You can check out the latest stats, view the play-by-play, and much more all on the same page where you actually make your bets. Place your bets on the same place. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all at FanDuel.com. FanDuel.com. Thursday night football. I got Boston College at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech -7. I like Boston College in that one. Broncos at the Saints. That's Sean Payton's homecoming back to New Orleans. And the Broncos are starting to play okay, and the Saints really aren't. Broncos are 1.5 underdogs on the road. I like the road dog in this one. Give me the Broncos. You can do all that and more at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Once again, that's at FanDuel.com. Time now for our power rankings. Let's do it. 1 through 18, a bit of a shakeup in some places, and I will put that on the screen here so that you can see it. If you are on video, if you're on audio only, I'll describe it to you in detail, but here we go. Full screen. Hey, #1, a new #1, right? We got to put Oregon at #1. They got the big win against Ohio State. So the Oregon Ducks, the top team in the Big Ten right now, followed by Penn State, which has been climbing the AP Top 25 polls every single week. Last week, #4. This week, #3. And our poll for the Big Ten, we're going to put them at #2. And Ohio State was in the top spot all season long. After that loss, I'm going to drop them to #3. You can almost do Penn State and Ohio State 2.5. They play each other, as we mentioned, in 2 weeks. That will settle that. So Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, top 3 in the Big Ten. And don't look now, but here comes Indiana. Indiana, 6-0. First time since 1967. Ranked 16 in the polls. Got a big game against Nebraska. That is coming up Saturday, big noon on Fox. So Indiana at the number 4 spot. Got the Fighting Illini at number 5, still ranked in the top 25 in the country. I got to put Iowa at number 6 because I got Washington at 7. I got to have Iowa ahead of Washington. They just beat Washington handily, put a 40 spot on them. Got to have Washington ahead of Michigan at 8 because Washington just beat Michigan a couple of weeks ago. This is my logic on some of this stuff. At some point, this team's going to beat this team or lose to that one. It's going to be impossible to keep that up, but that's the way it is right now. Got Nebraska at 9. Again, their big game against Indiana. And then the Minnesota Golden Gophers climbing the polls. Still impressed with that win that they had a couple weeks ago against Southern Cal. So good for them. And another win last week as well. So they're on the rise. And again, I got to put them ahead of USC as we look at the best of the rest. Trojans come in at number 11. Wisconsin at 12. USC beat Wisconsin. You see my logic here. And then I got Rutgers coming in at number 13. Northwestern with the big win at Maryland. Got to have Northwestern ahead of Maryland right now. Maryland at number 15. Then I've got Michigan State. Although I know I hear the voices, you know what? Michigan State did beat Maryland at Maryland earlier this year. Maybe I should move Michigan State up to 15, Maryland to 16. Purdue, I took out of the basement since they put up 49 points against Illinois. At least they're trying. They have a game against Oregon this weekend, Friday night at West Lafayette, but I moved them up 1 to number 17. I think UCLA has got some big problems going on around the Big Ten. So still looking for their first Big Ten win. So those are the power rankings as I see them. We do those middle of the week, each and every week, every Wednesday for you. Let me know what you think. Did I mess up your team? Like I said, maybe I could be talked into flipping Michigan State and Maryland. The rest of them, I'm feeling pretty solid on. Maybe you don't think I should have Penn State as we go back to the top 10. Maybe you don't like the fact I got Penn State ahead of Ohio State. Maybe those should be reversed. Hit me up on the comments on YouTube. I'll take it under consideration, as they say. So there you have it. Our power rankings for the week. And pretty good. Speaking of leaving me comments and whatnot, there's many ways for you to do it. There's Twitter or X at Talk Big 10. That's the number 10. You hit me up there. A lot of you already have discovered the comment section, of course, in YouTube. And I love it when you go back and forth with each other in addition with me. I try to get through those every day and answer as many as I can as well. Always look forward to that interaction. Again, that's on YouTube. And then don't forget our website. You see the crawl if you're watching on video. TalkBig10.com. That's the number 10, TalkBig10.com, where all of our podcasts go. And you can get your merchandise from your favorite team right there, all at the same place. If you're checking out your favorite team's podcast and then we're talking about them, you're all excited about them, then you go buy a shirt or a hat or something from your favorite school. All right there at TalkBig10.com. All right, tomorrow we're going to talk a little bit about that Nebraska Huskers game in Bloomington against the Hoosiers. We start turning the table. We had so many big games this last weekend. Here we are in the middle of the week, still kind of talking about them. I want to flip the calendar and really start looking forward to what's going on. I can't believe it's week 8 already, but we have a lot to get to right here on your source for facts and opinion regarding all things Big Ten right here. I want to thank you for checking us out. Can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. Tell your friends about us. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. We'll talk to you next time.